have to put the tweets out there.
Welcome to episode 13 of the Sports Hour Plus with Miller and Watson. Today's a little bit of a weird one. Obviously, yesterday was supposed to be a celebration of love for Valentine's Day and the Chiefs getting their second in a row Super Bowl parade. And once again, we are offering thoughts and prayers to a community in Kansas City on a day that should have been a celebration that was derailed by the 47th mass shooting in the United States this year already. So one woman was killed. She was a sports radio. I'm actually not sure if she was sports. She was a radio host for a local radio station in Kansas City. 21 were wounded. We do know that a lot of those were children ages 6 to 15, but all of those are expected to make a full recovery. There hasn't been much updates on anybody else. I know there was some life-threatening injuries that were reported yesterday, but there has not been any other confirmed deaths or any updates on the rest of those folks. So we're wishing our thoughts and prayers to not only them, but everybody that was there. I had some friends that were at the parade, some friends that worked for the Chiefs. And so I reached out right away and was told that it was a pretty scary situation. They were jumping over fences. They're covered in cuts and bruises. But everybody, was okay. It seems the Chiefs have reported that all of their staff, players were fine. It seems that a lot of the players and staff were helping and being incredibly patient and supportive to kids that had their parents had, they'd been lost from their parents or that they were calming them down, keeping them company. So there's been a ton of reports of that kind of stuff. And sometimes community comes together in the case of worse circumstances. And we pray that no one else is life is taken from this and that everybody else makes a full recovery. But we do definitely send our thoughts and prayers to the whole community and to the young woman's family and friends as they go through these next couple of days and process what has happened.
Yeah, yeah, and unfortunately, here we are. Yesterday, like Morgan said, 47 shooting. Crazily enough, another Valentine's Day shooting. It was the 6 years. Those of you that are keeping track, it was the 6 year anniversary of Parkland, the Parkland shooting, which happened basically around that time. Obviously, there is a time difference. I believe Morgan can correct me if I'm wrong. I believe Kansas City is on Central Time. I could be wrong, but I believe Kansas City.
Missouri, I'm so bad about that.
Yeah.
I believe they are, but it was similar. I did also see, and we haven't found out what the shooting was about. I saw a report today that it was a disturbance between two people, which I don't know. Why do you come to a parade with an AR-15 rifle if
Or a ghost gun, whatever it
or
was.
yeah, whatever. I saw a picture of it. It looked like one of those kind of automatic rifles. I'm not exactly sure which one it was. I'm not a gun expert. But and I do think that we do have to shout out those really, really brave Kansas City fans that tackled one of the shooters to the ground, alleged shooters to the ground. And um, if I was the Chiefs, I would give those people season tickets and a Super Bowl ring.
Yeah,
Again, out there celebrating what should have been a really fun, nice Valentine's Day, and turned into, again the worst of worsts for a lot of people.
yeah, and I mean it's another thing of like people cannot go anywhere. Like you're not safe to go anywhere, and it's crazy. I mean, like I said, I mean, a lot of stuff has come out now that might have you, whether you're a journalist or not, raise your eyebrows. Like it has come out now that because of we try not to be political, but like because of the Republican leadership of that state, it turns out that unlike I went to the Eagles parade, where like it was tight, security was tight. I don't mean to make this about that, but where security was tight, like everybody was checked, and we find out that at the Kansas City parade, no one went through metal detectors, no one checked to make sure there were no guns other than what the police had, because if you've been paying attention, I don't know how many Missouri people watch this show, but if you pay attention, you know that their governor Parson, who also was there, and ran for his life. What an alpha male of him. And he basically passed a law where the federal laws don't count in the state of Missouri. So like, things that you could do as far as like, oh, let's make sure nobody has a gun. Let's make sure people go through a security check, basic things that you would think you would have to do, right? And I'm not saying that that would have stopped this. Who knows? It turns out, as Morgan pointed out, that these were juveniles. Now we don't know the race of them. I have seen some misinformation saying the shooters were black, and there's pictures that have come out. Like Morgan was talking about, the guy did look white, so we don't know. We don't want to speculate, but we do know that they're juveniles. We just don't know anything
and I'm
else.
assuming that's why nothing has been released from them. I thought, yesterday when we started to hear things, I was kind of surprised that we hadn't gotten a picture or something. And I'm assuming that is because it has been confirmed that they are under the age of 18, which is juvenile. And most likely they still will be tried as adults because of the severity of what happened, depending on their age. Again, we don't know if they're 14, I don't know. Again, it's a horrible situation. And it's sad that we keep, every time I hear one of these now, I go back to Steve Kerr's press conference after the shooting was it in San Francisco? You remember what I'm talking?
I think it was after Parkland.
After Parkland. And, he obviously he lost his father to gun violence. And so it is very important to him. And, it's something that I don't want, or I hope that we don't get numb to. But unfortunately, that's becoming kind of a reality when we're seeing these things. Like I said, there's been 45 days this is the 46th day in 2024, and there's been 47 mass shootings. I believe that's defined as 3 or more shooting victims.
And it wasn't the only one that happened yesterday. I mean,
no,
in DC, 3 cops were shot. In Atlanta, 4 kids coming out of school, drive-by, shot. Like it wasn't even like it was 1 or 3 that happened yesterday. So like, it's a crazy time, and like, obviously this is unique. I mean, some of y'all are probably like, your mouths are on the ground because I just said that they didn't do what most big cities. I mean, Morgan, I don't know if you went to any of the Giants parades. I went to the Eagles parade.
No, I didn't.
Like, I mean, you have said on this show before you were part of the Nationals parade. I'm sure you had to walk through a metal detector because it's Washington D.C.
It's one of those things where most of those times you can't even bring a backpack in, which is kind of the new form of, if you go to sporting events, women, I literally have one hanging up right there. It's a big clear bag because I don't, when I go to a game, generally it's farther away from my house. I'm going to MetLife. I'm going to New York, Yankee Stadium or Met Stadium, Citi Field. They let you in some places, even if a clear bag, that you can't get in. But a lot of the places that I'm talking about in New York, if you have a clear purse, it can be whatever size you want, so that people get clear backpacks, they get whatever, which is purposefully so you can see through it. And I bring my bigger bag because I want, an umbrella or to put a jacket in there because I get cold or whatever. But even for these parades, a lot of them have, pretty much you can bring like a little fanny pack in, which for 99% of the people, that's all you need. It has your wallet, if you want sunglasses, your keys, whatever, a little bottle of water, whatever, can sit nicely in there. And some places, even your fanny pack has to be clear. Even a tiny little bag has to be clear. And I think, again, for maybe not 99%, but for most of the population, we're like, whatever, we're not doing anything wrong. I don't mind. It's just a thing. It. You get one, you keep it. I use it purely for that. I don't use that clear purse for anything besides sporting events or concerts or things like that. And it's another thing. It's like, you have to have an ID to get on a plane. You're not doing anything wrong. So whatever. And you see some of the pictures and some of the videos of stuff coming out, and they're just people with backpacks, people with stuff everywhere. And you wonder, you obviously, we don't know, but you wonder if there had been a check, if there had been something, if this still would have happened. It may have, they were kids. They may have not been checked as carefully. You never know. But, thank God it wasn't worse. It was horrible. And of course, for the person, the family, of their life and these kids and these people that were shot, we don't know the extent of their injuries. Their lives might be forever changed. For sure. mentally they'll probably be scarred for a very long time, but you hope that, this will change and that maybe Missouri will reevaluate their ideologies on
Their
this.
their stance probably not. We hope, but probably not.
I know.
It's unfortunate that here we are the day after Valentine's Day, and even during Valentine's Day, the day of the heart, we're talking about a senseless shooting, and we don't know what happened. I mean, apparently, it sounds like there are reports that like there was like an incident that happened. May have been a fight. May somebody have said something. That's the reports that I'm hearing. I think that's the reports Morgan's hearing too. Like we're all hearing the same thing. That it sounds like this all happened because two teenagers, more than likely, that had beef, were at the same place. Kansas City is not Philadelphia or New York, where there's a lot of people and you're not likely to run into each other. But this happens. This happens when the Chiefs are like the only game in town other than the Royals. So like
I mean, but the only thing is with that, then you still have to question and wonder why were they even allowed to? Why if my questioning of that is why did you have them then? Why did you have that kind of gun with you if it was a random happenstance?
Yeah.
So let's move on. It was horrible. And again, we wish thoughts and prayers, but we're going to now talk about the game this parade was being celebrated for. Super Bowl 58, the Chiefs rushed the Niners 25-22. OT victory once again. Patrick Mahomes to the rescue. It was a kind of interesting game. For the first half, not a lot of points. At halftime, I literally tweeted out, I was like, hear me out, Butker for MVP. Like, I honestly think that if they had a field goal had won that game, so say if the 49ers hadn't scored a field goal and they had the kick to field to go in, I honestly think he would have had an actual case for it. With the Mahomes throwing the interception, with Kelsey not getting a touchdown, with Pacheco having 3 fumbles, even though 2 of them he did recover, there was still two fumbles that got away and 2 that or one. I don't know. It was I was like, could we have our first ever kicker MVP?
Sorry, go ahead.
No, go.
I was thinking like I didn't tweet this because as we were talking about I don't think either of us threw one, but we both were at some massive Super Bowl parties. So I didn't tweet this, but I was saying to one of my colleagues that I was with, Malik, that I was like, this is turning into that Rams the last time SpongeBob had an important role during the Super Bowl. Like this is turning into that Rams Patriots Super Bowl.
Because what was the final score of that one? Was it like 3-9 or something?
Yeah, it was like 9-3.
There was no touchdowns, right?
Yeah, and it looked like it was going that way. And I was like, see, we just can't have This is my joke now. We just can't have SpongeBob associated with the Super Bowl, man, because it's guaranteed that's going to be low scoring. But yeah, man, like I was talking to people at the celebration. So shouts out to the social committee of Christian Stronghold Church. They had a big Super Bowl party on Sunday, which is where I was at. I know Morgan said last week she was at a friend's house. So I was telling everybody, just because we know that Kansas City came in a little bit bruised, but I was like, I told people just like Morgan and a lot of other people tried to tell me last year. I didn't want to listen because I doubted the greatness that is God mode Mahomes, right? You remember us talking about this last year when it was the Eagles, and you were like, it doesn't matter, Kylan. That's God mode right there.
My thing is you can't bet against Patrick Mahomes. Yeah. You just can't.
Yeah, and I took what she said. I didn't want to listen. Lesson learned from last year when my Eagles got Mahomes. I was trying to tell all the Niners fans, everybody that was rooting against the Chiefs, that that is Michael Jordan reincarnated. When you give that man too much time, God mode activates. And just like what happened, I told, there was a very, very vocal 49ers fan at the party that I was at who was just talking and talking and talking. I told him, I was like, I hope that your Niners back up all this trash talk, because if not, you're around a bunch of Eagles fans and one Steelers fan, a couple of other fans. We cannot wait to laugh you out this building. I left that party early just because I saw where this game was going. I was like, this is definitely going to overtime. It's going to come down to the last 2 minutes. Let me get back home. That like the second half was great. It was really a defensive struggle, but the Niners, what happened to the Niners is what happened to the Ravens, to the Packers, and to a lesser extent the Lions, right? The moment was too big for them, and the Chiefs just took full advantage of them collapsing. Like, that's it. Like, Patrick Mahomes is great. He went God mode. It's like I told my dad. My dad was like, I was doing some play-by-play, even though if you've heard Morgan and I talk, we are not play-by-play people. But I can tell you everything that's going to happen before it happened. My dad and everybody was like, you were right, because, like, when the 49ers got stopped after they got that interception, I was like, this is one muff punt or turnover away for the Chiefs to get back in this game, and it's over. And what happened? They punt the ball. The dude that bounces off one of the Niners' feet, he's got to go get it. He doesn't go hard. He has his Cam Newton moment where he doesn't dive for the fumble, and he's all like, my life, my health. And, the Chiefs get it. Touchdown to my play cousin Watson. And, if you would have told me that Watson would have more touchdowns than Travis Kelce, I probably would have been like, oh, you a family member or something? But yeah, so like, you got the touchdown. Obviously, you got shouts out to the Eagles again. The play that I think all the 49ers people were all like, is that the play? I watched it as it was happening. I was like, is that the play that they beat the Eagles with? Sure enough, it was the play they beat the Eagles with to score the touchdown. I'm like, God mode activated. You can't bet against it. Shout out to L'Jarius Sneed and all the secondary for keeping all those people in check. Just like it happened, just like I said, Morgan agreed with me too. Like, the secondary of the Chiefs are big enough and physical enough to keep Debo down, to keep Ayuk down, to stop Kittle, and they were just dropping like flies, man. Greenlaw went out with his Achilles. We're not making fun of that. It's just what happened. Weird things happen in the Super Bowl, as my Eagles can attest. Weird things happen during the Super Bowl. So,
we did talk about this last week, where we kind of said, and that's what I said, that for the 49ers to even have a shot, McCaffrey or somebody has to make a big play. And I felt like we were just waiting for it. And every time they got like close to making a big play, the interception, fumble, blocked extra kick or extra point, just it felt like they couldn't catch a break. And we were talking about this a lot on some of the shows that I work on at NBC. And, we some of my coworkers were there at the game, and they were saying that, like, even in person more, like, you could see, people online or whatever are saying that, like, oh, it's rigged for the Chiefs, whatever. They were like, the Chiefs got no calls. Like, there were so many bad spots that the Chiefs should have. There's so many times the Chiefs should have had a better opportunity. And at our house, at the friend's house that we were at, Dan was screaming at the television like multiple times. He was like, challenge the spot. And I was like, calm down. Like, I know. But like, for whatever reason, they didn't even feel like they needed to. They were like, we've got it. It's under control, whatever. But
yeah, I mean, and this is the thing, right? We can talk about this now because we didn't get to it, but the Chiefs were literally imploding semi before our eyes. Like, Travis Kelce was doing things that, as AJ Brown and others pointed out, if the roles were reversed, it was one of the black players doing that to Andy Reid. Not me, or Morgan, but a lot of the media, a lot of the other of our colleagues in sports media be like, get that thug off the field, blah, 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 blah. And yet everybody was just like, there's Travis. He's just so emotional. And I'm like, bruh. Now, to his credit, Jason Kelce, they had that In the Heights podcast, and he admitted he went a little too far.
He said it was unacceptable.
Yep. So, so to his credit, he had some self-respect there, but I don't want nobody who watches who's a fan of our podcast to be like, how can y'all let that slide? Blah, blah, blah. No one else is talking about it. So we'll get to that. But the Chiefs were imploding. You have Rashee Rice coming to Patrick Mahomes saying, I'm wide open. And then you look at the replay, and a lot of times, let's give the people some inside baseball. I want to tell y'all, a lot of times when you see Tony Romo or any former football player and or coach talk about that, a lot of that is kind of skewed because, like, they'll circle like the one part of the field where it looks like he's wide open, but then you look at the wider camera angle and you're just like, nah, he's not wide open. But that was the rare time where CBS showed the full shot and he clearly was wide open.
You were like,
because Travis Kelce was getting triple teamed. So like, you know, and he had a gripe there. That was probably like the only gripe that they had. But like, you know, obviously like the 49ers imploded, and the Chiefs did not. Like I said, Patrick Mahomes went God mode, and you know that's just what it is. And just so people don't think I'm being blasphemous, those of you that don't know, greatness on a different level, God mode. So I'm giving you, we get us millennials giving y'all some education on the slang now. But this translates perfectly into our next question, which I'm sure that you're tired of hearing about, right?
So here's the thing. I think there's differences. Like, I think if you look at the technique of Patrick Mahomes as a quarterback, I actually just kind of, I had watched quarterback when it first came out, but like, I think I'd watched it like doing other things in the house. Like I hadn't like sat down and actually watched it. So I just rewatched like the first couple, I think I'm on like episode 4, like sitting down and actually like, I'm taking this in. I don't think there's anyone out there like Patrick Mahomes. I don't think we've ever seen a quarterback as technically good at this position as Patrick Mahomes. I don't think that Tom Brady was as good at the position as Patrick Mahomes. I think that Tom Brady had unbelievable leadership skills. He was coached by an unbelievable coach. There was a lot of things that worked for him. You know, he every year seemed to get these crazy receivers or people that were somehow on these low-end contracts. He would take less money. And again, like, let's call it as it is. He was married to a supermodel who was making more money than him. He had the luxury of saying, I can take less money. Now, not, you know, football players get paid fine. Like, let's not pretend that. But you do have to understand that these people they're not working in football until they're 65, 70. So at some point you do have to consider that their careers are a lot shorter. And especially if you don't have, you know, your significant other is not a billionaire, to be able to sustain the life that you have to be able to pay for your bills and do all those things. So I think that there are things to be said about Brady had, I don't want to say an easier path because that's definitely not fair, but you know, I don't think that Tom Brady, who is considered the GOAT, yes, he's won the most Super Bowls. Will Patrick Mahomes ever win as many Super Bowls as him? I can't say yes or no. I think that this young crop of quarterbacks is so good that I don't think Tom Brady was really having to compete with the level of talent around him that Patrick Mahomes has. I mean, Lamar Jackson, Joe Burrow, Josh Allen, like all of these quarterbacks, and
that's just in the AFC.
And that's literally just in the AFC. So there are so many. I mean, you have Jalen Hurts, you have all these people that are coming up that are unbelievable quarterbacks, whereas Tom Brady, he was competing against good quarterbacks, but I don't think at the same level as Mahomes did. So maybe Mahomes won't get to.
Yeah, it's literally Peyton Manning, and that was it.
Yeah, like, you know, and Eli, he couldn't beat Eli, you know.
I hear the Giants fans that are close to me now.
First ballot Hall of Fame next year.
You can't spell elite without Eli. And I hate all of y'all for saying that.
I can't even tell you the amount of times that I have tweeted that exact statement. But there's a lot of that's how I feel about it. I think that they're in different classes. I think that they thrive at different things. I don't think that it seems like, you know, Tom really got to where he was a little bit later on in his career, and that stature was one of the things that helped him. And Mahomes is like the same age as everybody on the team. It's not like he does seem to be an incredible leader, but he seems like yesterday at the parade, like he was drunk as a skunk. They all were. Whereas, like, we never saw that from Brady in New England. He was kind of always buttoned up, always put together. We see passion. We see stuff from Mahomes, which I think, you know, at the party we were at, a lot of this is actually my, it falls into my she's not her. A lot of people that don't necessarily watch football a ton that are like, Patrick Mahomes is complaining. He's a complainer. He's a whiner, blah, blah. And I'm like, no, he's not.
The casuals pissed you off at your party, huh?
I was like, he's not he doesn't really whine. I was like, technically, if he wanted to whine, he could be pissed off that he doesn't have a single goddamn receiver that can catch a ball. But no, he decided to put the blame on himself and on the refs, which is a much easier way, and it's a way to get the team to rally behind you. He wasn't. It's like when a coach complains about a foul, even though it really was a foul. In basketball, it really was a foul, but he complains just to show his players that he's on their side. You're not really complaining because you think that the ref is going to do anything about it part of the time, but you're, I support my players, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah. And I mean, if I can, sorry, go ahead.
No, go. I just ranted for like 2 minutes.
So if I can piggyback on that, I just want to say we're in a little bit of a disagreement here because I think right now he's the GOAT. Like, he's the greatest of all time just because, you might have seen it. I mean, I don't know if you have a Facebook or not. But we need to rectify that.
I have a Facebook. Don't you worry. I'm 28 years old. You better believe I have a Facebook. Yeah.
I mean, I know, but some people in our age group don't. So you never know.
I know. No, I love my Facebook.
Yeah. So I put on Facebook like he's the GOAT of modern quarterbacks right now. And then another one of my friends, who I was cool with in undergrad, and he's a great guy, great English teacher, Antoine Stroman. Shout out to him. Commented, right? And I was kind of doing a little tongue in cheek. Not really sounding out like I'm doing publicly now at 3:40 Eastern time. Ready to get skewered for those of you who I have a lot of Raiders fans who are mad at me now in my life because I say he's the GOAT right now. But yeah, he's the GOAT. And my boy Antoine said like, he might think that Peyton and Brady are a little bit better quarterbacks, but that play that happened on Sunday is a play that Brady doesn't make because Brady and Manning didn't have the athleticism to run around a little bit, do a bootleg, and throw it to Mecole Hardman. Ah, man, y'all Jets fans thought I was going to let you live. But a Jet finally won the Super Bowl. That hasn't happened since Joe Namath. Shout out to the Jets. Shout out to the Jets. Y'all know I never miss an opportunity to kick a New York/North Jersey team while they're down. So, as I'm wearing Giants blue right now, as Morgan pointed out while we were off air.
And I'm wearing Kelly green, so we're all mixed up today.
But yeah, like that's Michael Jordan, man. I mean, we were talking about it a little bit, and I'm sure people have talked about it. But like, just like Michael Jordan, there were so many great players in his era that didn't win a ring just because he was there. And that's what's happening with Josh Allen, even though I think that he's him, but he's not there yet. Like, you can't be him if you can't beat him, and he hasn't been able to beat him. And for those of you that are confused with what him I'm talking about Patrick Holmes over there. That's what I'm talking about. The guy, the person whose greatness is on a different level. Patrick Mahomes, like that man has single-handedly kept Josh Allen from winning, kept Lamar Jackson from winning the Super Bowl, has kept Joe Burrow had his chance a few years ago, but has kept Joe Burrow largely down. That's just in the AFC, right?
Yeah. Can I say something? Can I piggyback on what you're saying right now?
Yeah, go ahead.
So I don't know if you've heard. So Kevin Clark from what does he work for now? He does the podcast. I think he's technically on ESPN. He was on The Ringer for a while. He has been saying, kind of going around and saying that one of the reasons why Patrick Mahomes is so elite and in his Jordan era is that he, this is his exact words, I'm quoting him, he relegates major characters to minor characters. So people that should be talked about and considered as the best in the league are being relegated to minor players because of him. And he's saying kind of like what you just said, is that there are going to be Hall of Fame quarterbacks that never win a Super Bowl ring because of Patrick Mahomes. And he said in 20 years, they're all going to have gold jackets and they're going to walk into the whatever room they have and their really fraternity thing. And they're going to look at him and say, God damn it, I wish you'd never been born, in the best way. And he said, that's like the best compliment that you can have as an athlete. And I think that's kind of what you're saying, right?
Yeah, like Patrick Mahomes is that guy. Like, obviously, Jalen Hurts and Brock Purdy will have a chance again because they're in a different conference than him. So they're both likely, and they're the top three teams in the NFC. Like, let's not be disrespectful here to even though I playfully call them the whiners. Like, they had no. This is a Super Bowl that they literally had no business in. Like, any objective 49ers fan knows that. They had no business in the Super Bowl, right? This was Detroit's Super Bowl that they took from Detroit.
That Dan Campbell just decided he didn't want to play in. Like, I mean, I don't know. Like,
Yeah, but he is single-handedly. This is why I say Josh Allen next year, whenever it is that he's a free agent, should leave that conference. Leave it. Go to the NFC. Leave that conference. Who cares about the Bills? Leave that conference. That's why I said with Lamar, this result might have been different if the Niners had done what I said to do last July, right? And you remember because you were there. I told them, go and get Lamar Jackson. You will be elite if you have Lamar Jackson. That game looks a little different if it's Lamar Jackson running around and spreading his wings enough, because he was killing the Chiefs doing that 2 weeks ago. Yep. Right? And like that looks a little different. Maybe the Niners have a Super Bowl ring. Maybe I'm not laughing at every 49ers fan. You know, maybe Marshawn Lynch isn't finding every 49ers fan at whatever casino he was at and saying F you to in front of their face. Like, you know, it's like I've never seen a team get clowned so much. I don't know. I think the last year, like, Fletcher Cox came out and said to Deebo Samuel, I got something you don't got. Aaron Donald posted a picture of him with his Super Bowl ring. I've never seen a team get clowned so much.
No, it's
like just for losing in the most heartbreaking. Like the Eagles lost a heartbreaker too, but at least they didn't lose in overtime, because that would have ruined me.
The Eagles, that's not a heartbreaker. The Eagles were like, thank freaking God I don't have to play another week. They were implode. Oh, are you talking about last year's Super Bowl?
I'm talking about last year's Super Bowl.
Oh, I thought you were talking about this year. I was like,
that would have destroyed.
Everybody was like, thank God I can stop talking about the Eagles.
That would have destroyed me had they lost the way the 49ers lost in the Super Bowl.
No,
I probably wouldn't have talked about the Eagles for like 2 months. If that was,
but you look at it like that extra point, that blocked extra point. That's game. That is the game. And we say that, and I'm sure the Chiefs would have done something to screw it up. And you know, it's hindsight's 2020, whatever. But like, they kick that, they make that extra point. It is so much different. The game goes so much differently. Yeah. Sorry, I interrupted you.
No. I'm just saying that, like, you know, it is, and I'm glad this is why this show works, right? Like, you know, this is like the Niners, like, they will probably be back. Well, we don't really know because they have to deal with. This was the Niners. I mean, we could just move to that state.
I mean, this was their year. This was their year. Everyone's not, you know, now they have to go do all the contracts, and it's crazy. I mean, okay, we want to talk about, you know, contracts and stuff like that. Chris Jones has been the master of, you know, playing it cool. And then did you see him yesterday at the parade?
I did not. I was not. I will be honest.
Drunk on the thing going, I'm going to be here forever. We're getting more. We're getting next year and the next year. And he was like, I'm never leaving, baby.
I saw the one thing I did see from that parade, not to cut you off, was was everybody being like, because it was Valentine's Day. Did you see this on Twitter that like Clyde Edwards-Helaire grabbed and like skipped with Brittany Mahomes? And a lot of people are like Patrick Mahomes. They were telling him to do what a lot of the men were telling Swiss Beats to do because of Usher. Like, he got to see him. I'm like, guys, it's not that serious.
No, actually,
it's not that serious. But you know, people do everything for that. But yeah, I mean, like, you know, this is the Niners' best. This was a lot of people's best chance to to beat these teams, right? Because for the 49ers, I don't know if you'll ever have another year where like the Eagles are down. Like, well, your best competition is the Detroit Lions. Like, you'll never have another year like this where the Rams were down, but they came up later. They'll have to deal with the Rams again. A resurgent Cardinals team too, with a top 3 pick. Like
Giants, you know,
maybe the Eagles back and better than ever with Vic Fangio.
The Cowboys,
maybe the Giants.
I don't know. The Cowboys are so frustrating. You can never really understand if they're going to be good or bad.
The Cowboys, like maybe the Commanders with the money that they have, with the Sixers now owning them. Like they had a better. This is their best shot. This is the Ravens' best shot. Like, I don't want to. Let's be fair to the 49ers. this was if you were an AFC team and you had the chance to knock off the Chiefs, you'll never see a Chiefs team this week again. Like this gets into our two questions from now. But like for the Niners, you gotta this your last like Kyle Shanahan. I'm sorry to tell you, I'm kind of spoiling my he's not him. But dog, this is your last. You cannot. You're on a Super Bowl losing streak. Like you're 0-3 of the Super Bowl. You've given up a 24-point lead. You're giving up a 10-point lead. 2 10-point leads. Like what? Like oh my goodness, dog. Like at this point, like we're about to get to Steve Wilks, so we might as well combine this question with this too. Like, but you won't be able next year if y'all don't make the Super Bowl. Y'all make the Super Bowl and lose. You will not be able to be like, oh, it's my DC's fault again. Like, dog, I'm telling you, they are going to fire you next year. Like, this is your last chance. Like,
so I have a question for you. Kind of going off of this, like, what do you think about all of the stuff coming out that like Kyle Shanahan never talked to anybody about the overtime rules, all that stuff? Kyle Juszczyk came out and said that he didn't know what the rules were, all that stuff. Like, how much do you buy that? Like, I saw this TikTok and I was dying laughing. It was from like a media
did you see the rap?
Advisor. No, I didn't. Oh my God, I have to see that. But she was like, I don't ever want to hear somebody talk about lack of media training ever again besides the San Francisco 49ers. She goes, lie. Why would you not have just said it is what it is? Like we made our choice and we went with like, why? Why would you say, I don't know, we were never told the rules. I didn't even know the rule. Like, why? That makes you look dumb. That makes your coach look dumb. Like, even if you're like, well, I don't know anything to my coach, like that makes you look stupid. You don't what? Like you don't know the rules to the biggest game of the year. And it's not even like it's just a Super Bowl rule. That's the playoff rule. So that means that was never talked about throughout the entire 3 games prior to that. Like
or the entire season. Because I know Jason Kelce came out and said like he was texting to Nick Sirianni during the Super Bowl and before it, like saying like we went over this in training camp during the summer. Like, and I'm like so if every other team, if all 29 other teams know it and y'all don't, what's going on here?
That's a you problem. Like that's not and like even Kyle's like response was so stupid. Did you hear that? Like he was like, no, I knew the rules, but we wanted to go third. Now, we wanted the option to go third. I'm like, what?
That game ended at midnight. Like I stopped to see the trophy presentation. And I was like, all right, I don't have to worry about this for Colts anymore. Like, but like, yeah, honestly, I would have loved to see the 49ers score just to see them celebrate and the Chiefs just looking at them stupidly. Like, how funny would that have been? Like, and they're all celebrating and the Chiefs are just like, yeah, y'all know we get the ball back, right? like. You know, like, and I just, like, there's a such thing as being too smart for your own good. And I think the 49ers are just this team because, like, every time they lose or something comes out, it's always somebody else's fault. Like, you know, when they lost last year, if it's their fans and players being like, if Brock Purdy was here, we would have won. We would have won the Super Bowl, blah, blah, blah. And now we had that theory tested. It turns out that y'all would have screwed it up anyway because you either would have got injured or done something stupid because you're the 49ers. That's what you do. Like, you know, like, there's a reason why y'all haven't won anything since Steve Young and Joe Montana and Jerry Rice was on the field. Like, you know, I like, you know, I don't want to turn this into a 49ers bashing session, but what's next for them is they're going to be looking for another coach very, very soon. And they're going to have to decide if Brock Purdy's their guy or not. Hint, Brocky, kind of like Sam Howell. Once Kyle Shanahan's gone, you're not going to be the guy anymore. You know?
The whole thing with Brock is like confusing to me. Like, I mean, he's definitely like, he's a good quarterback. He's a solid quarterback. Like, he's not bad, but it's like, I mean, there's a lot of solid quarterbacks in the NFL, you know, like, I don't know.
Start looking to move, dog. Because if Kyle Shanahan gets fired, and I've got a good track record, I called Pete Carroll. No one else was on this. I was, as Morgan, because that's somebody I called Pete Carroll getting fired. All the other stuff was pretty obvious, but Pete Carroll getting fired, everybody's like, what? I remember coming on after the show where they beat the Eagles, being like, he's going to get fired because they're not going to keep having Geno Smith and Kenneth Walker having all that talent and wide receiver and running back. It's the same reason that Atlanta got rid of their coach. Like, you can't have all that talent and lose. Same thing, Kyle. You can't have all this talent and lose. Like, Brandon Ayuk, that's the biggest piece. He's probably gone, because they have to keep enough cap flexibility to pay him, repay Greg Kittle. Like, look, dog, after this next year, if you're a Niners fan, just watch it, watch the ship blow up, because that's what's about to happen if y'all lose again. Like, just get ready. So speaking of that, Steve Wilks got fired. It sucks to be the fall guy. I think Steve tried his best, but he was handicapped by the fact that Kyle Shanahan, like Nick Sirianni, has had an outsized ego, didn't want to play the style that he played that was so successful in Carolina. And unfortunately for Steve, he's the fall guy because, it's just too much, man. He was in the booth, then down there doing too much. I'm sure he tried, but like when you have somebody like Kyle Shanahan, who people in our business and everywhere else just says he's God's gift to coaching. That's the man. That's Kyle Shanahan. Even though he has 0 rings and every ring was from his father from like 20 years ago, that's the man. So Steve Wilks was the fall guy. I hate what happened to him. It's very disgusting that, he's the fall guy.
Don't understand after that game you're like, yeah, our defense is the problem. Like,
yeah.
What? The first half of the game was boring because you kept Mahomes to, like, what?
Everybody did their gap assignments. Like,
I was blown away when I saw this. I was like, that is, in my opinion, the dumbest thing, and that's going to be a great pickup for some team. Some team is jumping on that opportunity. I do believe that he will get hired. Who are they going to hire? That's kind of my, like,
I don't know. They're kind of in a catch-22.
Belichick?
Yeah, they're kind of in a catch-22 like the Eagles were. Like, I guess their two best options are Vrabel or Belichick. Probably Vrabel, because Vrabel is probably more likely to be a DC than
That's
Belichick.
what I was going to say. Do you think that there's any chance that Belichick would take that job?
Probably not. But he might just to spite Tom Brady and win in his hometown. So
maybe.
Can you imagine that text chain? Hey, Tom, I did something you didn't do. I won a championship for the 49ers. Like,
crazy.
But there, that is, that's crazy. He's definitely the fall guy. Bad way to get to the middle of Black History Month for him. Getting fired on Valentine's Day. Crazy, crazy time. No love there. No love lost. No love found.
Nope.
Yeah.
All right. So moving on from the big game. Oh, no, I forgot. We have this. What's next to the Chiefs? Nothing. Don't change a goddamn thing. Keep everyone. Well, they just have Spagnuolo. They just signed him for longer. Keep everyone.
Well, they got to get receivers.
That's true. But they could draft some. Here's the thing: is that, like, I say, obviously you trade Tony or whatever. I don't know who's gonna pick him up, but
is he on paternity leave right now?
Who knows? Not according to him. They gave him a perfect out, and then that's why he was my he's not in last week, because I'm so annoyed at, like, and your job offer gave you the best thing that they could give you, which was an out, and you decided not to take it because you're an a-hole.
Yeah. Like, so for the Chiefs, like I said, get some receivers. You can't go another year with Travis Kelce as your best receiver, no matter how much money, like, his relationship with Taylor makes for the NFL. You can't go another year of, like, him getting triple teamed and you being over reliant on Isaiah Pacheco. You can't do it anymore. So get some receivers in there. And after that, you probably need another tight end, because Travis Kelce probably won't be doing this much longer. So you probably need to get a new tight end. But hey, as long as you have Michael Jordan, as long as you have Michael Jordan Mahomes, you're going to do pretty well. Pretty well. You got anything to add on that one, or you good?
On Mahomes? No. Or on the Chiefs? No. That's it. I say keep everything the same and get some receivers.
Yeah, some crazy time for my Eagles, right? Like, the Eagles couldn't let the Chiefs and the 49ers have all the fun, right?
Never.
So it comes out, like, after the game or during or right before the game, that Hassan Reddick has been given permission to seek a trade. Then he comes out and says he never wanted to trade, didn't ask out. Ian Rappaport, a lot of other people had like a confusing thing. So I guess he felt like he had to come out. So, the Eagles have been here before. Obviously, like last year this happened with Darius Slay, and a lot of this, as you and I understand, so let us educate the people. So a lot of times when you see that these teams, give somebody permission to get a trade, it's just leverage.
Yeah.
Like, it's them trying to get the player to see that not many teams are willing to like go into cap hell for you to give you $60 million a year. I fully expect Haason Reddick to be back probably like 2-3 years, 50, 40, 50 million, a discount, because Howie Roseman, as we've talked about this podcast before, is like the wizard of Jedi mind tricking people and getting enough money, but not really getting enough money for their talent level. But I mean, the Eagles are kind of in a catch-22, right? I don't think when they signed and when they traded for Haason that they thought that Josh Sweat would be the second coming and they'd have a decision to make between him and Haason. And that's really what's going on here. Like, they have to make a decision between the two, and I'll probably draft an edge rusher this draft to like deal to like be able to replace whichever one they don't get. So I fully expect Haason Reddick to be back, and I just think this is a lot to do about nothing. Eagles fans, relax. Trust and believe Howie Roseman has a plan. I'm sure you would love for him to be a Giant, right? Y'all take it from the Eagles instead of the Eagles take it from you. That would be a nice.
We'll literally take anything right now. We have. I think this is going to be a disastrous offseason for the Giants.
Now, do y'all still have Wink?
No.
No.
I mean, I don't know. Yes, what's weird. He I don't know. He left, and then they said no, he didn't, and then they did leave, but they haven't hired.
I'll give y'all some help. Like, if I were y'all, I would call and knock down the door of Steve Wilkes and be like, come to New York. Like,
I didn't even think about that, actually. That is a really good idea. I didn't even think about that until you just said that.
Just because this is why I take the objective journalist hat off. I don't want that to happen. As the Eagles fans that are listening to this, probably are like, Kyler, why are you giving them ideas? But I'm pretty sure that the Giants people who are paid more than me to think about this probably have already put that call in. If they haven't, that's negligent on their part. But
yeah, I would say so. No, that's something to consider.
Yeah. So
Giant, everyone from the upper epsilon of the Giants media that's watching this, go give him a call.
Yeah, so we'll move right along then.
So, we have been talking a lot about women's basketball, and Nebraska beat the Hawkeyes 82-79. So still a close game, only won by 3. Oh my God.
3.
Brain.
You're tired. It's all good.
I am so tired. I am still recovering from the Super Bowl. I actually have all next week off, and I cannot wait to sleep in and not worry about anything at all.
The Super Bowl is tiring, as we talked about last week.
Oh my God. It is
very tiring.
Really the longest week. It feels like it goes on for 16 weeks and then it ends and you're like, oh my God, we have to talk about it for a week. But then I will be in Indy, which will be really fun. Anyway, this was pretty crazy. Every team has an off night, and you don't, obviously, for Iowa, Nebraska is not a team that they like to see beat them.
That middle of nowhere. This is no knock on you if you live in Nebraska, Iowa. I think sure that both of your states are in the middle of nowhere. That middle of nowhere rivalry, I had no idea was that serious until I watched this game. I think they said it was one girl. I think it was the center for Iowa. Her dad played there. He was the center for not Iowa. He was the center for Nebraska's men's basketball team back in the 70s and 60s. And she was like, I have to beat Iowa. I've never beaten Iowa in 4 years. I'm all like, girl, I know that Nebraska women's basketball and men's basketball are basically in hell right now. But I didn't know it was that bad that this is no disrespect because the Nebraska women's team, just to be respectful to them, actually have a winning record as opposed to the men's side of the bracket. But like
I'm like, how did the Ohio State coach get fired and not the Nebraska coach?
yeah,
I
I don't
just
know,
don't
I don't know,
understand. Like, I
but
don't get
like
it.
but like but like this was great for Nebraska. Unfortunately for Iowa, they lost. They lost the game. I saw that during the broadcast they were talking about how they're neck and neck with Michigan, even though they have a better record. But the only reason that Michigan is ahead of them is because of the loss that happened earlier in the season. This was really a big game for Iowa, and they kind of played like it was a big game. But unfortunately, like Nebraska's shots started falling. The defense, as often has happened with Iowa, whether Caitlin Clark is there or not, they don't play defense. So it's like a bunch of whole teams of Damian Lillard. It's like they're all allergic to defense, except for like two players. And I want to give like it to their center Stalky. And I think there's another player on Iowa's team that's like a steals master. Shouts out to both of them because they play some excellent defense. But it's what happens, when you let a team that shouldn't be there. This happens a lot in basketball. You let a team that shouldn't be there hang around. They get that confidence, and it's over. That's exactly what happened to Iowa, and it's unfortunate. But there is a bright side. They do have Michigan tonight. Caitlin Clark will most likely break that record. So that'll be big time for her, and we'll get to that in a minute. But do you have anything to add before we get to the negative side of this game?
No, I just
I know
always
you.
think it's fun to see upsets happen, especially if you're not necessarily rooting for one team or the other. But this just put a damper on the night. I don't know. Did you see the video of the Nebraska player getting interviewed? As you can hear Lisa Bluter in the background just screaming her head off. Did
Yeah,
you see the video?
I saw it. I was watching on mute because I was doing something else, but I did see it. And the girl kind of looked, and all three of the Nebraska players kind of looked shook. I didn't know what was going on. I thought that maybe they had a situation, but then I unmuted the video, and it turns out it was just Lisa Bluter being like, "How dare they f this, f that?" Like, and you hear the music in the background, and all the kids screaming on the court still. And it's like a whole thing, and I'm just like, "Ooh, okay." All right, girl want to act immaturely. Like, again, this is like the Kyle Shanahan problem, right? I feel like your team reflects the coach. And Morgan said this off air before we got on here that this is not the first time that she's like acted like Kim Mulkey very immaturely and very conceitedly during games. Now I haven't really been like I watch Iowa games, but not really that much. So I don't really I've never seen her act like this, but I know that she got in hot water for an offhanded comment she made about South Carolina last year during the tournament. That's where she came into my attention based on that. But yeah, she acted very immaturely. And those of you that don't know, in college basketball, there is no written rule like that she would have you believe that the away team goes first. It's literally up to preference. Usually most places have, as Morgan pointed out, and I'm pointing out now, 2 different conference rooms for each team to go to that's next to their locker room so that each media side can interview the players and keep it moving, go to the locker room, do all that, do all the post-game interviews. But that didn't happen. Lisa really wanted to talk and probably complain like her and most of her players were doing about they were playing music while we were shooting free throws. They were yelling at us. I'm all like, bro, it's basketball. What do you mean? It happens all the time. It's a whole thing. And yeah, she acted very immaturely. To put a bow on this on my end, she acted very immaturely, and you gotta harden up, girl. Like, this is what happens. I said it about Kim Mulkey too. Like, act like you've been there before. Like, you're the hunted now in the Big Ten. Nebraska made it their stated goal that they wanted to send their seniors out beating y'all, and they did it. Be humble. Like, of course, this is a positive / funny thing. A court storming happened, and Caitlin Clark wasn't injured. We thank God for that. But act like you've been there before, y'all. Like, Caitlin Clark was accepted defeat. The rest of y'all need to accept defeat. And focus on Michigan tonight.
Yeah, I just you have to keep your composure. I trust me, I coach and I don't coach at that level, but I get upset when stuff happens that I think is unfair to my players, or I get upset. And there's one thing to be said about like being upset, fighting for your players, but like at the end of the day, you lost that game. If you have an issue with how something was run during the game, talk to the AD after the game. You don't have to screaming like literally never does anything. I just don't. That's my like biggest thing. I just like don't understand. I don't get it. Like, I don't understand how you, as a grown woman, can go and scream that at somebody. That's my big. I just. What do you think that's going to do besides make everybody angry at you for ever? You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. It just like I just don't understand how you, as a coach, as a again grown woman, can be like, this is the way to do this. This is going to go over really well on the age of social media.
Yeah, and I mean, like, we already got one coach that's doing too much, so we can add another one to the list. Moving right along.
Yeah. So no, that's all. And like you said, they have to focus on tonight, because tonight they are playing Michigan, and Michigan is a good team, but the more important thing is that Caitlin Clark is 8 points away from breaking Kelsey Plum's scoring record. I mean, she's going to break it. There's no doubt about it. My only qualm about saying that she's the best shooting in women's basketball history, my only qualm with this is that she shoots more than anybody else. And I'm not saying shoot. I get that. But like, you look at those UConn days, like you look at Brianna Stewart, who, Stewie won 4 national championships in a row. Oh, well, she doesn't have the most points. Yeah, because they played as a team. They wasn't, So, yeah, she's a great player. She's a great shooter, but she takes like 60 shots a game. So, like, and I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I'm just saying it's a she's not making what would that be, 120 points minimum a game. So, you do have to kind of look at it in that perspective.
Right. And I mean, Sheryl Swoopes kind of got in trouble for this. This is why a lot of people, for those of you that don't know, you're not old school women's basketball fans. Some people probably don't even know who Sheryl Swoopes is. They had this thing. Iowa got in trouble for this because during the week there were players and athletes were caught saying, "Don't be a Sheryl," and a lot of people took that probably poor timing and optics on their part doing this during Black History Month. But some people kind of took it in a racial way, and that kind of was a thing. But Sheryl Swoopes came out and said that obviously she's a great scorer, a great player, but like different eras. That's kind of what I'm picking up Morgan saying too, and I'm saying too. She's a great scorer. Obviously, she's gonna have the record, but that is like, I don't even think, like, I've seen better scores. Maya Moore, right? The god of women's basketball, Maya Moore, right? Who, if she didn't do her social justice mission, they'd be talking about her, the Michael Jordan, Patrick Mahomes, Tom Brady lane. Because people forget Maya Moore was that person. Like, that was that star. Before Brianna Stewart, before Diana Taurasi, there was Maya the God Moore. Like Maya Moore was that person. Like, I love Maya Moore. So Maya Moore was probably one of the sole reasons I wanted to go to a UConn women's basketball game, just for the chance to see her, right? So like Maya Moore was that person. So but she's not on there. Diana Taurasi is on there.
You look at them and like there's a lot of these like teams that have been, so what is the right word? I can't even think of it. So special in the world of women's basketball. They're still playing in the NBA or WNBA today. And again, it I don't know. So my question is no. I would say that she's the best at taking a lot of shots. I wouldn't necessarily say that she is the best shooter, because if she was the best shooter, she would be getting 100 points a game.
We're saying score. Like she's the best pure.
Best scorer. Okay. I mean, so maybe then I guess, but even then, if she was the best scorer, wouldn't she be getting 100 points a game if she's taking 60 shots?
True. But I mean, here's what I'll say, right? She will have the scoring record. So by that definition, she is the best scorer. Now, objectively, if you look at, or if you watched enough basketball as you and I have, you would say Maya Moore, Brianna Stewart, Diana Taurasi, Sue Bird. There's a bunch of better players than her. Now, what I will say is, like you said, she might be the best shooter that we've ever seen. Like she might be the Steph Curry of women's basketball. I'll give her that. She might be, and that's no disrespect to people coming up because or currently in the league, but she might be the best scorer. We'll give her that. I mean, the best shooter. She's not the best scorer. I'll give it to Kelsey Plum. I'll give it to Maya Moore. She's definitely in my top 3, top 4.
She's definitely amazing. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that she is phenomenal. But if you look at the shot percentages that she makes, I'm like,
she's definitely the best shooter. We'll give her that. She's the best shooter probably in all of women's basketball. But the best scorer, that goes to Maya Moore, Kelsey Plum, and a bunch of other people. So moving right along.
I'm going to let you take this. I'm going to let you take this.
Oh, man. Syracuse, stand up, man. I haven't talked about that men's program enough, apparently. Syracuse really
every time you talk about them, they seem to do good things.
This alumni proud, man. It was the reverse effect, right? Like, I haven't been talking about my alma mater. They won. I have been talking about Villanova. They finally won and did it in dominant fashion, by the way. But Syracuse, oh my goodness, props to you for beating UNC, doing something that Clemson did. And it was so Syracuse because, you lost by a lot to Wake Forest, lost to Clemson a couple of days before, but you beat UNC. Cardiac cues in full effect. Judah Mintz, J.J. Starling, my fellow Philadelphian, Quadir Copeland, the Philly effect. I'm just telling you, man, when they got a Philadelphian on that team, it just takes them to another level. So shout out to Syracuse. Great win. I don't know if they'll make the tournament. They'll probably need to go on a ACC tournament run, but great young team, very entertaining. Adrian Autry is doing a great job. Got a lot of upcoming recruits. So I expect the women to make it to the tournament this year, but I would not be surprised if, just out of legacy and if they keep on winning, Syracuse makes the tournament. I don't think that will happen, but I'm going to keep my blind faith and say that they're on the cusp with a win like this. If they can build on it, I'm so excited, though. Down the field goes those Syracuse. Cheers to my alma mater. Shout out to Syracuse University. Shout out to Judah Mintz. Keep it going, brother. Keep it going. All right. So as we wrap up the college basketball portion of this,
we're gonna have different opinions on this answer, I believe.
So to me, right, there is no, after what happened to Iowa, after what happened to Arizona, after what happened to Purdue on the men's side, there's a lot of parity, right? To me, I don't think that there's a true number one team. I will say, out of deference to you, it might have to be UConn. Like I said last week,
might have to be UConn. It definitely is UConn.
Look. UConn is definitely standing up as the number one team, and obviously you got South Carolina on the women's side. So you definitely have the best teams, which are those two. But is there a true number one team who I'm willing to put come next month my money on that they're definitely going to make the tournament? I definitely think that's South Carolina on the women's side. UConn, I think that they should make the tournament.
If UConn doesn't make the tournament,
I mean, no, the national title. Let me say that.
Oh, okay. I was like,
my bad. I'm a little tired myself. I expect South Carolina to make a Final Four on the women's side. And I expect UConn to at least get to the Sweet 16. But if it doesn't happen, just because upsets mostly happen on the men's side more than the women's side.
Sure, there's more parity on the men's side than the women's side, for sure.
But I wouldn't be shocked if UConn didn't make it. But right now, my number one team in all of basketball, college basketball, is South Carolina, just because South Carolina is dominant. But UConn, the men, are very.
Here's the thing with UConn men.
Go ahead.
Even when their best players, their best shooters are out, they win by double digits. That's the difference. Is that when their starting five are healthy, awesome. Their bench is so deep. They had last night they were playing DePaul, last night they were playing DePaul. They were into their bench. One of their bench players hit 3 threes in a row, literally in a row. Swish, swish, swish. They have so much shooting ability. They are so good at everything they do. They have a 7'2" center at Klingon, who is a monster, a beast out there. They have 2 probably lottery picks with Klingon and Stefan Castle. Every single game, Stefan Castle gets better and better and better and better. And I just think, yeah, that would be my thing. Again, could it happen? Yeah, it could happen any week. I think that this game on Saturday against Marquette is going to be a huge game I think it's going to be the biggest game of the day. It is, and both teams, Marquette they didn't almost lose, but they, I want to say they got taken to OT last week, their last game, but I'm intrigued. I don't know what's going to happen. I don't want to jinx anything. It's hard to talk about your team. It's hard to be objective on your team, but I just don't see their matchups are so strong and they are just so good.
Let me just say there was, right now, if I'm putting money, I'm not putting money on it, but I put money on South Carolina. I definitely put money on the UConn men to make it at least to the Final Four.
Yeah, I agree.
I
think the UConn women's team is every game getting stronger and stronger and better.
Right.
So I think it's going to be interesting. It's going to be. Right. I'm so excited. I freaking love March Madness. It's amazing.
And look, I don't want to be disrespectful because, I said South Carolina, and we really didn't talk about them, but South Carolina dominated LSU. They have a big game tonight. South Carolina, you cannot, you can't count out Patrick Mahomes. You better not count out Dawn Staley, especially when she's pissed off. So,
always.
Yeah. So, I fully expect South Carolina, especially with how deep they are this year, to make it and probably be in that championship game, maybe ruining the fact that we won't get a UConn or Iowa game. It might be South Carolina, UConn, or South Carolina, Iowa in the title game because South Carolina will take one of them out. So you never know, but I fully expect South Carolina and UConn to be in the Final Four on both sides. But to me, I'm definitely putting more money on South Carolina just because, UConn, even though they are the best team on the men's side, as we've seen before, it doesn't take much. It only takes an off night to beat somebody. And I'm not saying that they'll end up being Virginia, but you never know. So moving right along and continuing our basketball segment. My Sixers, they're on a hot streak. They're on a hot streak. They lost, unfortunately, last night to the Heat, but they're getting it together. Buddy Hield, the man. I mean, you remember last week, I was about to say last night. Last week, we were talking about Buddy Hield and his impact. Buddy Hield, man, 22.6 points per game, hitting 4.5 threes, had a double-double last night. His game has been perfectly symmetrical with Tyrese Maxey. And this man is putting up 25, 30 a night now, with Tyrese Maxey being the best playmaker on the floor. Now, what do you think is going to happen a few weeks from now when Joel Embiid comes back? And it's him, and he's got Joel Embiid that he's opening up the stuff for that. This is a shooter, like I said last week, and Morgan will remember me saying this, that I've never seen this much room for Sixers to operate in a long ass time. So the Buddy Hield is that guy, Tyrese Maxey is that guy, and if we'll get to this, but if you're a team and you have the Sixers on your schedule, hint, what's up, New York Knicks? Next Thursday, don't be surprised now that the Sixers, because the Sixers offense looks like what it looked like before Joel Embiid went down, just without Joel Embiid. Just imagine what happens when you get that 30-40 a night scorer back in a few weeks. But I totally expect the Sixers to be that team, and they disappointed me a little bit losing to the Heat the way they did yesterday. But with Tyrese Maxey, this feels like what happened to the Eagles, right? They got a chance to build their confidence before going on that run. This feels like what's going on here with the Sixers. So I am so excited that the Sixers are finally out of the losing streak. I don't have to talk bad about them like I was the last few weeks. But this is so great. Like I said, I'm being objective right now. So I am so happy.
Sometimes you have to, and that's okay.
I am so happy. So, but back to Buddy Hield. Has he submitted himself as someone who should get an extension and stay with the Sixers? Yes! Daryl Morey, back up the Brinks truck right now. We talked about this last week. I believe, Morgan, you can correct me if I'm wrong. 2 years, $40 million is all this man will cost to extend. Do it right now, bro. Do it right now. Like, it's not going to get any better. Do it right now. 2 years, $40 million. You can still have your 60+ million cap. Once James Harden and Tobias Harris come off the books, do it right now, Daryl. Do it right now. Don't be stupid. Do it right now. 2 years, $40 million. Do it. Do it. Joel Embiid. Just imagine that three-headed monster of Joel Embiid, Tyrese Maxey, and Buddy Hield just means you should do it, Daryl. Do it right now. Just do it. Do it right now. Like, I can't. There's nothing more I have to say. 22 points. This man was averaging 14 points before he came to Philly. He's 8 points better than that. Now, just imagine what's going to happen when Joel Embiid comes back. He might be a 30-point scorer by the time Joel Embiid comes back for the playoffs. Do it right now, Daryl. Do it. Yesterday's price is not today's price. Do it while it's cheap, Daryl. Do it right now. Do it. Back up that Brinks truck. Do it. Do it. All right. So with the All-Star break starting as soon as tonight, as soon as the games are over, who are the teams you're watching out for, Morgan?
I've said this before. I don't really like the team competitions. I don't really care. Are we talking about the games tonight, or are we talking about the
like just the team you're expected to like have a big second half?
I was getting excited. I thought we were talking about the All-Star games already.
No, that's
here's the thing. I hear a lot about the Sixers from you. And I think the Sixers are. I feel like I've been convinced that somehow they're going to win the title this year,
okay.
Which is, But I also think there are a lot of good teams out west. There are some teams that are doing some stuff. Wait. First of all, sorry. Speaking about West, did you see Steph Curry's shot last night?
I did.
That was crazy.
They literally measured it 130 feet. And I'm like, who is out here just being like, all right, here's the tape.
But is that the longest? Is that the longest?
I think he does it. He does it every game. I think it just might be the fact of like,
okay,
that the way the Clippers set up the Staples Center, it might be longer than what it usually is just because of the way they set it up and difference to the Lakers. I don't really know because I would love to go, but I've never been in that stadium for a basketball game. Probably should change that, but that shot was sick.
Sorry. So let me get back to who I think is gonna. Now, I think obviously the Celtics are super far ahead of kind of everybody else in the Eastern Conference right now, which obviously. But here's my thing: teams like the Pistons and the Wizards, they can't get worse. They have not won 10 games. They can't get worse, right? So, like, they have to do better in the second half. Am I crazy? Am I crazy? Like,
look, I'll say it like this:
the Wizards are 9-45.
Those are teams that, like, it wouldn't surprise me if they don't win a game for the rest of the season. But we're gonna have.
Can I ask you a question? Do you know the lowest? Like, what's the lowest number of games somebody's won in a season?
I believe it's like, I think somebody won 4 1 year.
Okay, so they've already beat that. But no, I think that what I find more interesting is that the Western Conference is really tight. I think that's a little bit more interesting than the Eastern Conference. I think that obviously the Eastern Conference has some of those really, really good players that everybody kind of always wants to talk about.
The East is deeper than the West.
But. Yeah, but I also think that, I mean, you look at teams like the Warriors and the Lakers and teams that have these stars on them, and it's kind of like that Patrick Mahomes effect where, like, can you really ever count them out? Like, there's a long second half of the season.
Yeah. I mean, just to wrap this up real quickly so we can get to what you're really excited to talk about, the All-Star game. So on the East side, I would say look out for the Orlando Magic. I mean, unfortunately, they lost they lost 2 nights ago, but I believe in the Magic. I think that they'll be like a team to, like, they'll kind of be like the OKCs this year. Like, they're a surprise team. It looked like it's coming together rather quickly. I know teams like Detroit and Washington are jealous, but like on the East side, Orlando, I'm staying consistent because I said this in the summer. Orlando is a team to look out for. I think that they're a first round exit, but just getting to the playoffs will be big time for them. On the West side, I'm torn, but I gotta say, just because of proof of concept right now, OKC is this year's OKC. Like, they had a great year last year, but they're having an even better year this year. Like, who would have thought that they'd be up there in a three-way tie for number one, while Denver is at the fourth spot? OKC is that team. I fully expect them to be a 2 or a 3 seed and really give teams some trouble and maybe even make a Western Conference Finals. Like, don't be surprised if you see OKC in the Western Conference Finals going against Denver and Chet Holmgren and them giving them all they can handle. Or against Minnesota, because Minnesota's another team that's looking really, really good right now. So Anthony Edwards, like, they just need to get rid of that log jam between Karl Anthony Towns and Rudy Gobert, because I think that's kind of stopping their offensive momentum. But they are making me look stupid, but because I did pick them, but like they're doing great despite the fact that they have that log jam between Cat and Rudy Gobert. So, and they have Cat playing out of position at PF, but it's looking great for them. So those are my teams to look out for. Before we get to our favorite segment, events, I'm gonna go first so you can talk about yours. I'm excited for the dunk contest and the 3-point contest, both of them between Sabrina and Steph and the regular one, just because I love seeing Matt. Last year I loved seeing Matt McClung. He literally saved that Saturday night because it was threatening to be like a little bit crazy. Matt McClung, very excited to see what he looks like defending his title. And how can you not be excited for Steph Curry and Sabrina Ionescu having a best shooter, a shoot-off? Like, oh man, I'm so excited for that. You go right ahead. End the game.
I'm excited for the 3-point contest. I don't care about the game at all. I think all these games are stupid. I like to see all the skills plays. The dunk contest is always fun. I hope somebody like actually does a cool dunk this year. Sometimes I feel like they win because it like all the other people try all these cool things and then they don't go in. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I think I'm really, really excited for the 3-point contest with Steph. I think that's going to be so fun. I'm super excited to see who wins. But yeah, I'm excited. I think I'm going to watch more than I normally watch this year. Just because I think it's going to be super fun.
Yeah.
Okay, let's go. Are we heading to she's not him, he's not her? I'll go first. My they aren't them. I hate to say it, probably is mainly she's not her. Okay. I'm going to preface this. I love football. It's my favorite sport. I love watching it. I love covering it. I love Taylor Swift. She's one of my favorite.
She literally should have football. Football is my number one sport tattooed on her. I'm really surprised she doesn't have that tattoo, honestly.
And I love Taylor Swift. Like, Taylor Swift has been one of my favorite artists for years. Now, I would just like all of the Swifties who have never watched football before to put it in their brain what it would be like if you brought your boyfriend, your fiance, your husband, your friend, your girlfriend who's never seen Taylor Swift before to a concert, and they are asking you all of these questions. They're saying, why is she talking to the audience? That's really weird. Like, that's really awkward. That's weird. Why is she wearing that? Well, and then your response is, well, that's what Taylor does. Taylor's always done this. Taylor does this. Taylor does that. Okay, that's fine. Then you cannot all of a sudden come into the NFL viewing experience and pretend like you know everything about the sport. I am so sick of all of the things that I saw this weekend about Travis Kelce, about this, about, oh my God, how did she not get the ick? Why did he go up there and say, Viva Las Vegas? Why did he go up there and say, let's fight for your right to party? I'm like, tell me you have never watched anything with Kelce before. That is Travis Kelce. She likes him because he's weird and goofy and pseudo cringy. Like, that is Travis Kelce. He's never not been like that.
Yeah.
I love him for that. I say anybody that's unapologetically themselves, which is what I truly believe that Travis Kelce is, that is what he is. Again, we were talking a little bit earlier about the Andy Reid, Travis Kelce situation. For many other coaches and players, I would say, yes, that is like, whoa, out of line, blah, 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 blah. Yeah, it was out of line. He even said it was unexcusable. But that's the relationship that Andy Reid has built with his players. Like, he's built that like, yeah, that was too far. That was Ray crossing the line. But he's built that he wants you to come over and fight and be that energetic. And, you know, in the same thing we were talking about, he said that Andy Reid came up to him afterwards and was like, dude, I love your passion. I'm fired up for you right now too, but we have cameras on us at all times. Like, I don't want that steam for you. You don't want that steam for me. Like, let's just bring it down. And I love that they're able to have that conversation, that they can laugh. And yes, people get angry and bent up, and especially when you're playing contact sports, especially when you're playing live in the Super Bowl. Was it acceptable? No. Should she have done that? No. But does that mean that he is a terrible human being and Taylor Swift should break up with him and he is a emotionally and physically abusive person? No. That is not what that means. So I need like everybody to take a deep breath and bring it down, just because you don't know the guy, and like let her live her freaking life. If she loves him and knows his true heart and doesn't get the ick from that, then that's great. And that's the guy that she fell in love with. That is Travis Kelce. Like, good, bad, ugly, that is him in a nutshell. That entire game was Travis Kelce in a nutshell. Getting way too worked up, calming down, making huge plays, and then being himself and screaming, "Let's fight for the right to party" after the game.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm just like, and again, like the same kind of thing. Like, if you're, think how annoyed you would be if your whatever came and was like making fun of Taylor for stuff that like she does all the time. You know, like, why does she talk about her cat so much? Like, that's weird. Like, that's like, or like, you know, how defensive everybody gets when they talk about Travis or Taylor flying around in her private jet, the emissions, all that stuff. Think how defensive Taylor Swift fans get of her when that happens. Well, to an outside person, yeah, flying around is like how much she uses her plane for is a little bit crazy, you know. And I know she lets her plane out to other things, but like, again, you have to understand that like you're new to this world and we're welcoming you. I want more females watching sports. I want them to ask questions. I want them to be involved, but I also don't necessarily want them to pretend like they know every single thing about the sport, because I don't even know everything about the sport. I ask things, but like you could be like a better question would have been like, why did he say let's fight for the right to party? Somebody else would have been like, oh, he said that after the first parade. That's his thing. Now he says it every time they win.
That's his theme. He's a Beastie Boys fan.
It's his thing. Yeah.
He's a Beastie Boys fan. He's old. Is that all you got?
That's all I have. Sorry.
All right. So
lost it a little there.
No, it's fine. Let me get this out the way. Kyle Neptune is not on my list, but a different Kyle is. What's up, Kyle Shanahan? I tried to tell you earlier, and I'm about to piss some Niners fans off, but I'm calling it right now. Come next season, when it ends disappointingly again, guess who's going to be on the hot seat? Guess whose seat's going to be red hot? Kyle Shanahan. You're not him, brother. You're not him. I'm telling you, there's only but so much John Lynch and Jed York are gonna take, bro. That family is looking at you. You got rid of the DC. There's only but so many coaches you can scapegoat to so many players. I mean, like Morgan said, it's kind of a bad look for you that none of your players knew the overtime rule. It seems like, according to Jason Kelce, him and Nick Sirianni talk about that all the time. They've been talking about it since the rule changed. And Morgan's been to more training camps than I have, so I'm assuming everybody's talked about it. Nick Sirianni and them were talking about it before. Obviously, this happened in Kansas City in the Kansas City game, so we know that Andy Reid them went through it. And you know, you're Kyle, like you're 0-3 in Super Bowls, bro. Like you know, if you go 0-4, it's over for you, bro. Like Brock Purdy, this is his last like 4-year year. So like, you know, it'll be the last year that they can pay players. Nick Bosa just got paid. So somebody else, you're going to get, what's going to happen to you, dog, is you're going to get Mark Jackson. Like how Mark Jackson built the Warriors and then they got rid of him. And then another coach came in and took that team to the promised land. That's going to be what happens to you, bro. Like I am telling you right now, I told Pete Carroll this. I told Sam Howell this, and he's going through it right now. Like it's over for you after this year. Like, don't be surprised. Everybody's gonna be surprised. Listen to this tape. Save it. 4:37 Eastern time. Kylan said, Kyle Shanahan, you are not him, dog. It's gonna be over. They aren't them. Stick into that. The San Francisco 49ers. Y'all really think I was gonna let y'all slide? The San Francisco 49ers. I've never seen a team, I said this earlier, get clowned by everybody. Like Aaron Donald, like y'all did something that I've never seen before. Brought Rams fans, Seahawks fans, Eagles fans, Cowboys fans together to collectively clown you. I've never seen that before. Aaron Donald taking Fletcher Cox's lead. I don't know if you saw this, Morgan. We should see Fletcher Cox like I guess we're calling this sub Instagramming Deebo Samuel and basically saying, we've been holding this in for a year, waiting for you to fail. It's a big game. You know, my man's been holding this in since the Packers game. He's been like, I can't wait. And he finally had it saved and told that man the EAD. Like, I can't. I know that Chris Sims and them had a field day with this because that was hilarious. Like
wildness. I was like, what is happening?
Aaron Donald just posted his ring. Like everybody came. I've never seen a team piss the NFL off so much like the 49ers players did. Like, oh my goodness. Like, congratulations. Congratulations, 49ers. I've never seen so many people just be so happy in y'all collective misery. Like, it is amazing to see. So that's my day on them. And my she's not her, Lisa Bluder. Act like you've been there before. Yep. I gotta stay consistent because if it was Kim Mulkey, I'd be saying the same thing. Yeah, act like you've been there before.
Yep. All right. I got to go. I got stuff to do. It was amazing talking to everybody today. Thoughts and prayers for everybody that was in Missouri and continued prayers for them. We'll be back next week. And then the week after that, I'll be at the Combine. So we'll see what we can do. But kind of breaking down stuff from the All-Star game. We don't have football to break down next week, which is crazy. But if anything big happens, we will talk about it. All right. Peace out.
See ya.